Good morning students. Today we will study class 8 chapter 12, that is friction. As we know, when we go or start a bus or move or throw a ball, it stops after some time. So why a ball stop before after throwing it? It is a force which opposes its motion. So that force which opposes its motion is called friction. So in day-to-day life, you have seen the rolling, when you roll a stone, tie with a thread, stop after some time. When you stop your force, that stone also stop after some time. This is also due to the force of friction. So what is force of friction? The force acting on an object opposing its motion, which means a force which opposes the motion. Oppose motion means stop that body which is moving. So in this way we can say that a force which acts in opposite direction of our applied force. So the force of friction always opposite to the applied force. If you try to push a book in the forward direction, then the force of friction is always occur in backward direction, because that force of friction tend to stop the motion of the book. So in this way we can say that force of motion is only or due to the opposing force of the applied force. So it is just same in magnitude but opposite in direction. So what is the cause of friction? So why this friction or force of friction occur? So as we know, there is the irregularities on the surface where the two bodies are in contact. That minute irregularities are not seen with eyes, but these minute irregularities of two surfaces, when come in contact, then the force of friction occurs. What does it mean? When you rub your hand, you see there is the minute irregularity between the two palms of your hands. So when you rub your hand, you feel the force of friction. So force of friction is only due to the irregularities of two surfaces which are in contact. If this is the first surface and this is the second surface, or you can see the interlocking of these two surfaces causing force of friction. So what are the factors that affecting friction? So there are mainly two factors, because the friction is only directly proportional to the surface of contact. So only the surface of contacts are the factors which affect the force of friction. So we have two type of surfaces. Number one, rough surface, and number two, smooth surface. In rough surfaces, the irregularities are more. So what does it mean? As this type of irregularities are more, so that these irregularities causes more force of friction. So when the irregularities are more, the area of contact between two surfaces interlock with each other and the force of friction comes into play. So second is smooth surfaces. In smooth surfaces, the force of the irregularities are minute, they are negligible, so the force of friction is less. So that the two bodies which are in contact having less interlocking, and the objects move continuously. So here, when the objects are moving from smooth surfaces, it covers more distance. As you throw a piece of stone or a paper or a chalk or a book from a smooth surfaces, it covers a longer distance. But when the same things are thrown from a rough surfaces, the distance covered by them is small. So in this way we can say that the force of frictions are affecting by the smooth and rough surfaces. So next is types of friction. We have two types of friction. Number one, static friction, and number two is sliding friction. So the static friction, the force of friction which comes into play when the objects start moving from rest. So when the objects start moving from rest, the force of friction occur on a body is called static friction. Static means at rest. Number two is sliding friction. So sliding friction, the force of friction keep the object moving with the same speed. So it allows the body to move without any force. So here the sliding friction is less than static friction because in sliding friction the interlocking between the two objects which are in contact do not get enough time to get interlocked. So sliding friction is less than the static friction. In static friction, the two surfaces get enough time to get interlocked so that the force is applied to overcome that interlocking. So next is friction a necessary evil? It is necessary, force of friction is necessary for our day-to-day life, or it has drawbacks in day-to-day life. So as friction has large number of advantages in our day-to-day life. We can consider its advantages. It is a necessary thing by knowing these examples. So number one, when friction is not, the force of friction is not there, then it is difficult to move on a muddy or wet marble track. So if the force of friction is not there, then we can't move on muddy or wet marble surface. So when the wet marble surfaces are there, then the surfaces are smooth. So there is less force of friction. So force of friction is needed. Number two, it is not easy to put a greasy or to handle a greasy jar because greasy jar has a smooth surface. So it is not possible to put that jar. So we need a force of friction to hold that jar. Number three is it is difficult to write with pen or pencil on a paper which is greasy, or it is possible to write on a blackboard with a chalk. So it is only possible if the force of friction is available between the chalk and the blackboard. So as you see, I am able to write on a blackboard. So it is only possible because there is force of friction between the chalk and the blackboard. Number four is stop a moving car. We can only stop a moving car when brake is applied. So when brake is applied, it makes an interlocking between the tires and the road. So that interlocking is the force of friction. Next, we can start the automobiles and change the direction of that vehicles on the road because there is force of friction between the tires of vehicles and road. Next, fix nail on the wall. We are able to fix the nail on the wall because of the force of friction. So no building is constructed if the force of friction is not there. So these are the advantages of force of friction in day-to-day life. But on the other sides, the force of friction have some disadvantages. So number one, it wear out the material. So as you see, when you use your shoes for large or for long time, you see the sole of shoes become worn. So it is done due to the force of friction between your sole of shoes and the road. More the friction between your sole of shoes and the road, more is the wear out of the material. Next, force of friction produces heat. When you rub your hand, rub your palms with each other, then you feel a heat is produced. So this heat causes wastage of energy. Your mixture jar working for long time also got heated up. So that heated up causes wastage of energy and also wear out of that material. So in this way we can say that friction is a necessary evil. We can't live without friction, but there are certain disadvantages of friction also. So here we had completed the some factors which are regarding the force of friction. So in next lecture we will discuss how we increase or decrease the force of friction by ourselves. Thank you.